You know that moment when your chest tightens, your jaw locks, and your brain starts flooding with comebacks you'll probably regret? That's anger taking the wheel. Most people either explode and burn everything around them, or swallow it and burn themselves. But what if anger didn't have to be a problem at all? What if it could become your purest, cleanest fuel? This video is about turning rage into power without becoming cold, fake, or numb. We're going to strip anger of its chaos and keep all of its energy. By the end, you'll know how to stay sharp under pressure, clap back with control, and walk away from conflicts with your dignity and your relationships still intact. No spiritual bypassing, no cheesy, just think positive advice. Real, grounded tools. So if you've ever thought, I'm tired of losing it, stay right here. This might change how you move forever. Anger is not the enemy. Uncontrolled anger is. The problem isn't that you feel rage, it's that nobody ever taught you what to do with it besides explode, ghost, or numb out. In this video, we'll break down a clean, practical system for handling anger so you keep your power, your self-respect, and your long-term goals intact. We'll walk through what anger really is, how it hijacks your brain, and specific techniques to slow it down without losing your edge. I'll give you word-for-word phrases for heated moments, body strategies to calm that internal fire, and ways to turn emotional spikes into insane productivity and focus. If you care about becoming harder to provoke and easier to respect, you're in the right place. Make sure you watch until the end so you don't miss the step-by-step process. And if this kind of content helps you, consider subscribing and hitting the bell so you actually catch these tools when you need them most. First, let's dismantle a lie. I'm just an angry person. No, you're a person who feels anger. Anger is a signal, not an identity. Biologically, it's your system saying something feels unfair, unsafe, or out of control. It's a built-in alarm for boundary violations and blocked goals. The problem is we confuse the signal with the strategy. The signal is the feeling. The strategy is what you actually do. Yell, shut down, overeat, scroll, smoke, send that paragraph text. When you say, I have an anger problem, usually you mean, my strategies are trash. From now on, your job is to treat anger like a notification, not a command. A notification says, look at this. It doesn't say, destroy everything. When you can see anger as information instead of an order, you immediately regain leverage. You can decide, do I speak? Do I walk away? Do I turn this into fuel for something bigger than this moment? When you're triggered, your brain goes into survival mode. The amygdala, your emotional alarm center, lights up, and your prefrontal cortex, the part that handles logic and long-term thinking, gets shoved into the back seat. That's why you say, do, or type things you later can't believe. To control anger, you don't start with thoughts. You start with physiology. Step one is noticing your early body signals: tight throat, heat in your face, buzzing in your chest, fists clenching, faster speech. These are your pre-explosion cues. Once you catch them, the goal isn't to suppress them, but to slow them. Try a simple pattern. Exhale longer than you inhale, like in for 4, out for 8. Drop your shoulders, unclench your jaw. Look around the room and name 5 objects in your head. You're pulling your brain out of tunnel vision. This doesn't fix the problem. It just puts your thinking brain back in the driver's seat so you can choose your next move. Turning anger into fuel starts with a simple reframe. This energy is mine. When you're furious, you're flooded with adrenaline, focus, and drive. Most people waste that energy on arguments, revenge fantasies, or self-sabotage. You're going to redirect it. Ask yourself one question in the heat. What long-term win can I feed with this short-term fire? That might be your body, your business, your art, your studies. Instead of doom scrolling or drafting essays in your head, you go, cool, I'm lit up, time to work. Concrete example, you're furious after an argument. Instead of texting back, you put your phone in another room and slam out a workout, clean your space, or grind through a project you've been avoiding. The point isn't to ignore the issue. You'll handle it later with a cooler head. In that moment, you just refuse to donate your emotional energy to chaos when it could be compounding into progress. Most uncontrolled anger comes from a simple pattern: expectation, entitlement, explosion. You expect respect, honesty, effort. When reality doesn't match, you feel violated. That's normal. The problem is when your unspoken expectations turn into rigid rules. They must treat me like this. If not, I lose it. To keep your power, you separate standards from fantasies. Standards are what you choose to tolerate. Fantasies are how you need others to behave so you feel okay. A powerful question. What is the boundary here, and what is just my ego wanting control? Boundary. If you yell at me, I'm ending the conversation. Ego. You must agree with me and validate my feelings exactly how I want. When you see the difference, you shift from victim of other people's behavior to guardian of your own standards. Anger becomes a highlighter. Something here isn't aligned. Your job isn't to control them. It's to decide what you do next. Staying clean means not letting anger drag you into behaviors that stain your integrity. It's not about being nice. It's about being consistent with who you say you are. When you're heated, there are three big ways you get dirty: attacking character, bringing up old ammunition, and hitting below the belt just to win. Before you respond, run a quick filter. 1. Is what I'm about to say true? 2. Is it necessary right now? 3. Can I say it without disrespecting myself? Not them, myself. Because when the dust settles, you have to live with your words. Staying clean might mean saying, I'm too angry to talk about this without being unfair. I'm going to step back and come back to it. That's not weakness. That's emotional weightlifting. You're proving to yourself, even at a 9 out of 10 anger, I don't abandon my code. That's how self-respect is built in real time. One of the fastest ways to lose power in anger is over-explaining. When you feel misunderstood or disrespected, you might start writing essays, paragraph texts, long DMs, voice notes, trying to force someone to get it. That rarely works. It just drains you. Power is in clean, simple communication. Think. Short, direct, calm, for example. Instead of, I can't believe after everything I've done, then say, when X happened, I felt Y. That doesn't work for me. Instead of you always, you never, say, the pattern I'm seeing is kondoma. I'm not okay with that. If the other person is defensive, dismissive, or mocking, you don't need to argue them into maturity. You state your experience, your boundary, and your consequence if needed. Then stop. Silence is not weakness. It's a way of saying my piece is not up for debate. That's anger turned into clean, firm direction. Anger isn't always loud. Sometimes it turns inward as self-hate, shame, or quiet resentment. That's still anger, just pointed at you. Maybe you replay mistakes, call yourself names, or punish yourself with procrastination and bad habits. To keep your power, you have to clean up how you talk to yourself while angry. Replace "what's wrong with me" with "what is this anger trying to protect?" Maybe it's your need for respect, competence, rest, or honesty. Try a simple script in your head. Of course I'm angry. Something I value feels threatened. I don't have to attack myself to take this seriously. Then decide one constructive move: an apology, a plan, a boundary, or a changed behavior. Self-directed anger can be incredible fuel for growth when you use it to upgrade your systems instead of your self-loathing. The rule: attack the problem, not your worth. You're not your worst moment. You're what you choose to do next with it. Often what looks like anger is actually a cover for more vulnerable emotions: hurt, fear, embarrassment, feeling small. But it's much easier to feel "I'm pissed" than "that really hurt me" or "I feel rejected and not enough." To stay powerful, you need emotional X-ray vision on yourself. When you're activated, ask, if this anger had a softer emotion underneath, what would it be? You don't have to share that with anyone yet. Just be honest with yourself. Here's the twist. Acknowledging the softer layer doesn't cancel your anger. It clarifies it. Now, instead of swinging wildly, you know what actually needs addressing. Maybe you say, when you ignored my message, I felt unimportant, and that made me angry. That's clean. It's specific. It's harder for people to dismiss and easier for you to navigate. Power isn't pretending things don't hurt. Power is being so grounded that you can name the hurt without collapsing or exploding. Sometimes the cleanest way to use anger is to upgrade your systems, not your speeches. If you constantly end up enraged in the same situations, same kind of people, same conversations, same environments, that's data. Anger is telling you this setup doesn't work for who you are becoming. Instead of promising, I'll stay calm next time, change the system around it. Examples: if certain apps trigger you, move them off your home screen, limit notifications, or delete them for a season. If late night texting always leads to drama, make a rule: no heavy conversations after 9 p.m. If specific people live on disrespect, shift from spontaneous calls to scheduled time-limited contact, or distance completely. System changes feel boring compared to venting, but they're how you keep your power long-term. Every time you redesign your environment to reduce pointless anger, you free that energy for goals that actually move your life forward. There's a difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is instant, unfiltered, and usually messy. Responding is delayed, intentional, and aligned with your values. The gap between trigger and action, that tiny pause, is where all your power lives. Train this with a simple rule. When something spikes your anger above a 7 out of 10, you buy yourself time. That might mean, I hear you, but I need a minute before I answer, or typing your response in notes first and waiting 10 minutes, or physically leaving the space. I'm too heated to be fair. I'm going to step outside. In that pause, ask 3 questions. 1. What outcome do I actually want? 2. What response moves me closer to that? 3. What response would I regret tomorrow? You're not being passive, you're being strategic. That's how professionals, leaders, and emotionally strong people move. They respond on purpose, not on impulse. Let's talk about using anger as long-term jet fuel. Some of your greatest breakthroughs will be built from the sentence, I'm never letting this happen again. Not as a grudge, as a promise to yourself. Take a moment and think of a time you felt deeply disrespected, underestimated, or abandoned. Instead of just replaying it, extract the contract. What did that moment teach you about what you want to build? Maybe it's financial stability so you're never trapped. Maybe it's a stronger body, sharper skills, better friends, or clearer standards. Write it down. Because of that experience, I'm committed to Palier. Every time you feel a surge of anger about it, use that spike as a cue to take one step toward that commitment. Send an email, study, train, save, create. This is how anger stops being random fire and becomes a focused engine. You're not stuck in the past, you're sponsored by it. Let's lock in what we've covered so you can actually use it. First, anger is a signal, not an identity. It points to something feeling unfair, unsafe, or out of control. Second, your body is your early warning system. Tight chest, clenched jaw, fast speech. Catch those cues and slow your breathing to get your thinking brain back online. Third, you redirect the fire. What long-term win can I feed with this short-term anger? That's how you turn rage into workouts, work sessions, and upgrades, not damage. Fourth, you stay clean by honoring your code. Short, direct communication, no character attacks, no self-sabotage. Fifth, you dig under the anger, hurt, fear, shame, and address the real need with boundaries, plans, and system changes instead of just venting. And finally, you use anger as long-term jet fuel. Because of this, I'm committed to building that. Rewatch this if you need to. Implementation is where the power is. If this video hit something real for you, if you saw your own anger patterns in what we talked about, don't just close the tab and drift back into autopilot. Choose one situation in your life where anger keeps running the show and apply just one tool from this video in the next 24 hours. That's how this becomes transformation, not entertainment. If you want more content on emotional control, mental toughness, and building a life you actually respect, make sure you're subscribed and the notification bell is on so you don't miss what's coming next. In the comments, tell me, what's one way you're going to turn your anger into fuel this week? Be specific. Your answer might become someone else's turning point. And if you know a friend who's always saying, I have an anger problem, share this with them. You might give them a language and a strategy they've never had. Stay sharp, stay clean, and I'll see you in the next one.